Let's get this show on the road. I'm back. Back to entertain you guys. Uh, Here we are. Oh, wait, my light's off. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Hungarian Grand Prix live stream. It's been a while. 3 weeks ago was the last stream I did. And then, we went off to Italy, which was great. So let me see who's here. Hello, Seb. Hello, Tanveer. Hello, Inge. Hello, Christina. Hi, Samantha. So, yeah, we had a lovely time in Italy. First time. And we've seen lots of places. Drove a lot of miles. About 3,000 kilometers we drove. Spent a few days in Modena. I visited the Ferrari Museum. I didn't go to the Enzo Ferrari Museum. Might do that another time. And then we went off to the Como Lake. That's the lake where Yuki Tsunoda lost his phone. But I didn't see him, so that was a pity. Yeah. Now I'm back, and slowly getting back into the rhythm of writing videos and uploading them and following the race weekend. I needed a bit of a holiday. I was you don't know how much you need it until you nearly go on holiday, and then it's over in the blink of an eye. 10 days of holiday, and now I'm refreshed. I do recommend the Ferrari Museum. Like, I saw people there making pictures of like all the Ferrari stuff, the road cars and the other series that they're in, and I wasn't so much interested in that. But then you get to one room where there's about 8 or 9 of the old Ferrari cars, and they're all lined up, and that was amazing. And I was reading all the bits of history on the wall, of all the different drivers, and that was a lot of fun. I'll probably make I like to make holiday videos just um for Samantha and the kids. They're for personal use, but there probably will be a bit in it with the Ferrari Museum, and I think I'll just download that bit separately, and I'll put it on my members account. Just to give members a little extra. Talking about members, I think I can give away memberships again. Yes. Okay. Here's the first 5. Samantha again. And Shakir Aurora, Hefty Metal, Simon Wu-Tang, Swordsman Berry, and Louisa Luz. Okay. I think I might know that Louisa from Threads. So, and let me do it again. So I've given away 10 free memberships. Make sure you have receiving gifts on if you want one of those free memberships. Miami, Eddie Congress, Joris, Rob, and Brookfab. Those are all new names, I think, except for Eddie Congress. So let's see. Let's see if they start sticking around. That would be nice. So yeah, people, I didn't prepare anything. You know, we're just gonna talk about the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend. We're gonna talk about um everything that happened going to the weekend, and then the free practice sessions, and then qualifying today. I think we'll get stuck into the qualifying most because most of the stuff happened there. I think the first news of this week's Grand Prix is that Max Verstappen finally said that he was gonna stay with Red Bull. He also said that it was never his intention to leave, and a lot of people talked about it, but the only person that should be talking about it was quiet about it, and he was talking about himself. And I already sort of gathered from the Telegraph that he was going to stay, and that the exit clause wasn't possible anymore because he's going to stay P3 even after this weekend, regardless of how many points George Russell scores. And if you've seen my latest video, you'll know that I'm quite happy with Max staying with Red Bull. And even if that means he qualifies in P8 and he might only score a P5 or a P6 tomorrow, um, for now I'm fine with that because um, in 2018 and 19 and 20, a lot of people also said that he should leave because Red Bull wasn't going anywhere. And then they made a couple of critical changes and more wins started coming. And then in 2021, he won the championship. And, you know, in 2026, he might only get 2 wins again. And it's going to be a struggle. But as long as there's things to hold on to and a new wind tunnel, might be getting in use, um, there's things to look forward to in 2027. And especially me, that now that I'm older, the years fly by. Like 1 minute I'm doing a 4-hour stream of the testing in the afternoon, and now we're sitting here with at the 14th race of the season. Time flies. So, 2025 is a struggle for Max. 2026 might be a little bit better, and 2027, boom, he might be there, with Red Bull. You never know. Oh, hello, Hank. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, that was a bit of a news, which wasn't really news. Then another bit of news is that Fred Vasseur has extended his contract, or Ferrari extended his contract, which is good news because they've been changing team principals way too often in the last decade, and it's never the solution. So, yeah, kudos for John Alcon and John. No, what do you call him? Vigna. What's his first name? Benedetta. Benedetta Vigna. Um, for not replacing the team principal. Um, what Ferrari needs now is a good baseline to base everything off, and then yeah, for them next year is going to be completely new as well, with a new set of regulations with so many different um, parts that are going to be different. There's going to be new aero with active aero instead of DRS. Then there's going to be a 50% battery. There's going to be a V6 engine, but that probably needs to be smaller to fit it all in. And then there's a simpler ground effect because the Venturi tunnels are disappearing. So, yeah. Like the team that gets most of those things correct will probably be the fastest at the start. Um, so yeah, good news. I like Fred Vasseur. You know, he's a funny man and he's doing a good job managing everything. Because it's not it's I don't think it's easy to manage Charles Leclerc and then having to manage Lewis Hamilton as well, who's trying to make his mark on the team. Um, Talking about Lewis Hamilton, I always laugh when I hear about him sending documents um, to the design team of all the changes and all the things that he wants to see in the new car. Um, yeah, I know why he's doing it as well, because if that design teams perhaps creates a monster of like a great car next season, he's gonna say it was with my help. Um, if the car is gonna be rubbish, then he'll probably say, "Yeah, I've been sending documents, but they didn't implement it, so it's not my fault." Um, yeah, so Lewis Hamilton, he always makes me laugh. But we'll talk about more. We'll talk more about him when we get to the qualifying bit. I think that was pretty much it for the before the weekend started, as in big news. Yeah, I think that was it. Let me see what the chat is saying. Tanvir says, last weekend I went for karting and I had a total of 5 spins in 8 laps. Wow, you must have been pushing it, Tanvir. That's amazing. Was it wet? Hank says Alcon in the pit box again. Yep, he's keeping a close eye on things. Hank says, I hope Vasseur gets the space to manage things his way. Yeah, that's what I hope as well. And Christina says, I like Fred too, but Alcon just gives me the creeps. Yeah. Um, it it's always a bit odd to have like a proper businessman so close to the F1 team. That's one of the things that Red Bull did very well all those years. And you had Matisic, who had nothing to do with Formula One, and he gave his blessing to Marco, and Marco gave his blessing to Christian Horner, and they started building, and they become dominant twice. And then if you compare it to the likes of Ferrari, where there's always this Ferrari board changing stuff and disrupting the flow of a team. And then a bigger example is Alpine, and before that Renault. They had a board that wanted to meddle in things. Mercedes, they have an owner team boss that worked for a while as well, but then they haven't been winning much either in the last 4 years. So it's complicated. But yeah, free practice sessions. On Friday we saw what we always see, and that is the McLarens just being on it from from the first fast lap to the last. They've got this win and this season in the bag, no doubt about it. I don't like to look at free practice sessions too much between Lando and Oscar to see who's going to be best in the race, because there's not much to say about it in free practice sessions. Qualifying is more important for that. Um, yeah, it looked like the Mercedes cars were pretty quick. Antonelli is doing a lot better. I think they took a step back from um, they had upgrades and then they reverted back to older spec from a time where Antonelli and Russell were more comfortable with the car. And I think Russell qualified P4, which is the second row. So that's a pretty good going. Um, yeah, the Ferraris, I think they were up and down this weekend, but Charles Leclerc was the quicker driver over the free practice sessions. And then there's Max with Red Bull. And like many Fridays, it looked pretty hopeless. Um, and then a lot of the times, Rudy Van Buren back in Milton Keynes, he does his magic and they get a bunch of new settings for FP3 and they change it all around, but they couldn't do it. And, today qualifying and the free practice session was pretty desperate again. So they didn't manage to get the car working. Hey, I see a new name. Temba Nyoko. Hello, Temba Nyoko. I'm very curious where you're from. Let me read out what you just said. John Elkann and the Ferrari board feels like Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers at Man United. Nothing but corporate incompetence. Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I don't follow football very much, but I think they sacked about 4 or 5 trainers in the last 8 years. Two of them were Dutch, Louis van Gaal and um, what do you call him? The old Ajax coach. Um, yeah, so it's definitely weird for like two American blokes. Ah, you're from South Africa. Welcome. Yeah, it's definitely weird that two American guys with too much money invest a couple of billion in a football club and then they start interfering with football stuff. You know. Um, Now I don't know Benedetta Vigna. I know that John Elkann, um, his mom's side of the family were on the Ferrari board like decades ago. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's from his mom's side. So, there's Ferrari blood in there. And it's not like it's complete strangers running that team. But still, the decisions to kick Binotto out and the couple of guys before Binotto, those were the choices of that board, and yeah, they shouldn't do that. But anyway, back to the race weekend. Yeah, today Saturday, FP3 was again very hard for Max, very hard for Yuki. Um, so what um, what I hoped was that they'd still find something in the settings during qualifying for Max. Um, but then at some point it looked like he wasn't even going to make Q3. So I was kind of happy that he did. But yeah, the highlight of qualifying. Well, let's start at Q1 first. Who went out in Q1? I think I need to look it up. Yeah, Yuki went out. Qualifying. Yeah, so knocked out in Q1 was Alex Albon. They really struggled on this track. Nico Hulkenberg. Now, I could say, yeah, that's a steak F1 car. It's really bad. But Bortoleto made it into Q3. Esteban Ocon. I could say the Haas is a really bad car. But Oliver Behrman made it through. And then Pierre Gasly in P17, he was beaten by Colapinto. That's quite special as well because that hasn't happened very often this season. So maybe Colapinto is getting to grips with the car a bit better. And then Yuki Tsunoda, the one time that he's only a tenth and a half off the pace of Max, Max is way off as well, and he doesn't make it into Q2. Awful. Hey, Vegas. Um, I don't think Ryan Reynolds gets involved of that English football club when it comes to sacking trainers and hiring football players. He just invested a lot of money in it, and then he shows his face, and then it gets them more sponsors. Um, Let me see what everybody's saying. Hank says Ferrari was very unpredictable indeed. Tanvir says it's really hard to see Stroll out qualify Max. Really, that doesn't bother me. He put the car where it belonged, and maybe even 2 spots better than the car deserves. So, no, that's fine. And like, does everybody remember last year that Max struggled a lot with the car, and then the team put him on like a strategy that he didn't like because he had to overtake a lot of drivers to get back into the podium positions where he didn't want to get undercut. So GP came over the radio and he said, well, that's a nice way to bring the tires in. And Max was like, don't give me that shit. You know, you're giving me this fucking strategy and I'm just trying to get the best out of it. So that was the race where Max just went yapping and yapping and yapping. And he tried to overtake Hamilton, and Hamilton pushed him off the track. And he goes, he pushed me off the track. And then GP went, I don't think you're ahead at the apex. Oh, well, that's fine then. And then there was the big incident with Lewis Hamilton, who sort of squeezed Max in the braking zone. And then Max locked up and he went straight ahead. And Lewis went, I go right now. And crashed into him. Hank says, I laughed my head off when TV commentators tried to excuse Hamilton for failing to reach FP2. Yeah, you mean Q2. Yeah, I always listen to Sky Sports, and yeah, it dampened the mood a little bit. And then Lando Norris only qualifying P3 and Leclerc getting the pole. They were having some strong feelings, I guess. So it was an awful race for Max last season, but he still managed P5. And I think seeing the pace of this weekend, I'd sign up for P5 for Max because it could be even lower. Um, Christina says, "Oh, I remember this Hungary. Very funny radios. Yeah, especially the compilation of it is funny. But what stuck with me was the reaction from David Croft to Max's radios because Max had just did a sim race till 1 o'clock in the morning or something um, with his red line team. And David Croft just kept on going on and on and on. I think he mentioned it about 7 or 8 times that Max was grumpy because he didn't get enough sleep because he was sim racing instead of sleeping. And yeah, I commented that he was doing midnight snacking, and then I got told off for being um, for doing fat phobia or yeah. So I had to stop doing that because I got told off. But yeah, that was Hungary last year. Oh, and Hungary last year was also the race where Piastri was in front, but for reasons they pitted Norris first, and then Norris was miles ahead of Oscar, and they told Oscar to catch up with Lando, and he didn't. But they still told Oscar, uh, yeah, they still told Lando to swap positions, and Lando just hesitated and he didn't want to do it, which was stupid because if he'd done it straight away, he could have attacked again. Or if you don't want to do it, then just don't do it and then suffer the consequences later. But all this talking about, you know, you're going to need the whole team and um, you don't win a championship on your own, yada, yada, yada. I think that was one of Lando's biggest mistakes because having a race win behind your name, that toughens you up, yeah? It gives you confidence. And that's why Oscar Piastri is beating Lando now because Lando didn't nip it in the bud. I know a driver like Alonso, Max, Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton, uh, name another champion, Sebastian Vettel. Those guys, if they would have been in that position of Lando Norris at the Hungaroring last season, where they were leading and the guy behind you can't catch up because he was going off track into the gravel and stuff, there's no way in hell they would have given up that position. Not a chance. But Lando, he moaned a bit and he just let it go on and on and on. And then he was showing how much faster he was than Oscar. And then he swapped anyway, which was a big mistake. Because if Lando Norris had asserted his dominance at that point, say, yeah, well, he didn't catch up, and I was quicker, and he went off track, so that win is mine. I'm in the championship I'm in the championship battle with Max. I I deserve that win, and we'll discuss it after between closed doors. Then he would have sort of nipped Oscar Piastri in the butt, and he wouldn't have the problems he had this year with Oscar. But yeah, not all drivers are the same, and I think Lando wants to win a championship, but also do it in the most pristine and clean way possible. And maybe that's why he won't win a championship because let's be honest, he won 2 races. Lando Norris won the last 2 races, but it was because of a penalty that Oscar got in Great Britain. And what happened the race before that? there was something in Austria where I thought this was an Oscar Piastri win as well. Oh, Tembanyoko says, I'm a Lewis and Oscar fan, but I can't stand the toxic bias on Sky Sports. The British bias video was the first video I watched from your channel, Wimbo. Okay. Well, it's awesome to see you in my live stream. Uh, have you commented a lot? Is that sometimes the names I see here in the chat are different than the ones I see in the comments. There's a difference. But yeah, it's great to see you here, man. Thanks. Yeah, toxic bias. I understand bias because I've got my own bias, but at least I admit it. And when you come to my channel and you see my wall behind me, you know exactly where I'm coming from. You know, I'm a Dutch Max fan, and I love Formula One. If Sky Sports says, look, we're all English, and Sky Sports is mainly watched in England and the UK, so we're happy when an English driver wins, and we'd rather not see any other drivers win, then that's honest. But they always protest when the accusations fly of British bias, and that's what I don't like about Sky Sports, is that they're not honest, and they do hire people like Nico Rosberg and Jacques Villeneuve, and that's good because they're not English and they show a different side. And then they have what do you call him, Button, and he does nothing but praise Max. So I do believe those guys level it out, but I would like to see those people that work for Sky Sports, the commentators like Brundle and Crofty, that they admit that they get more excited from a Lewis Hamilton overtake. And through goes Lewis Hamilton than from another driver. You know? Hey, Outlaw! How nice to see you here. One of my members. That's right, Hank. And Ruth told that Alonso got a tow from Max. And then they went to look at it and it was nowhere to be seen. Right, so Alonso outqualified Hamilton, but it was because of a tow. And then they were looking at it and it was like, oh, no, there was no tow. Oh, man. That's crazy. Okay, that was British bias, but I was still talking about the Hungary weekend. Yeah, qualifying. So, who got knocked out in Q2? Kimi Antonelli, P15. Yeah, that was also hard. And then Franco Colapinto, P14. Carlos Sainz was pretty happy in P13. Then Lewis Hamilton in P12. And Oliver Behrman in P11. Let me say something about Oliver Behrman first. Oliver Behrman has finished 4 races in a row in P11. And now he qualified in P11, which is pretty special. So let's see where he finishes tomorrow. If it's P11, then Crofty is going to have a wet dream because he's been talking about it all day. And then Lewis Hamilton. Now, sometimes at Lewis Hamilton, like he went out in Q1 last weekend, and it was because he exceeded track limits, and that's something you can you can get caught out by. You know, it's like really unfortunate. But this particular lap, there was no mistakes in it. You can't really blame the car because Charles Leclerc put it on pole. And then when Lewis knows he has no other excuses and the blame falls on him, then he goes really overboard on the blame. Yeah. And then people start praising him again. You know what I mean? So he's sort of taking the weapons that people have out of their hands, and by making it worse than it actually is, and then yeah, people do the opposite and they start praising him again. You know, I've seen loads of tweets underneath Lewis Hamilton's comments, and like, does everybody know what he said? He said that it wasn't the car and that he's useless and Ferrari needs to look at a better driver. That's basically what he said. Um. So yeah, it's just yeah, it's just a tactic, you know. Um. Because I've seen lots of tweets saying, "Oh, Lewis is always so hard on himself, and you know he's still the greatest, and you know he's still amazing." And a lot of people were angry that some people on Sky Sports dared to touch the topic of him being 40 and that he's actually not in his prime anymore. And yeah, that that was yeah, people shouldn't have done that according to Team LH. So I see all kinds of conversations going on about hair. Outlaw says Leclerc in P1, awesome job. Yeah, we're not at Q1 of a Q3 yet, Outlaw. We'll talk about it. I was just in the middle of a rant about Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, he's feeling sorry for himself for getting out in Q2. So Christina says it's okay. Uh, Lewis Hamilton's army has already flooded socials of Ferrari to stop sabotaging Lewis. Oh, is that the thing now? Even when Lewis says that it's not the car, because what I've been hearing is that some of the changes that have been made have been done in favor of Lewis Hamilton. So, yeah. Oh, you know what was funny? There's a guy on Twitter called Joseph. Yeah, and he's a big, massive. Um, he's a big, massive. What do you call it? Lewis Hamilton fan. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, let me go screen share. Okay. Let me do this again. Screen share. Wait a minute. Yes. Okay. Okay, guys. So this guy, Joseph, and his Twitter name is LH44 Joseph. And he says a Verstappen Q2 exit will make for a very good viewing from next to the Verstappen end. Right, so he's one of those toxic Team LH members. And then it happened to Lewis Hamilton. There's also a tweet that he removed now, where he said that he was sitting next to the Verstappen. He was making pictures of all these fans in orange, saying that he was sitting next to them, next to all these losers. But anyway, he got served because he saw his favorite driver get knocked out in Q2, something that he wished on another driver. Outlaw says lots of hype and little results. That was the situation when Lewis went to Ferrari. And Hank says Team LH was accusing Mercedes and now Ferrari of sabotaging him. Yep. Christina says, yep, Leclerc has a better car, gets all of the upgrades and so on. It's sad, really. Yeah, Tanvir, go on Twitter. I'll follow you. Swan says, it's like those memes. There's always one crazy person in the family, and if you don't know who, it's you. That sums up Lewis at the moment. Lewis has achieved a lot and is an elite driver, but also a lot of hype and a long time Mercedes dominance. Yep, Christina, that was karma. Joseph got a little bit of karma. The reason I like Lewis a little less than the rest is because of his behavior with the British media towards Max. Yeah, well, those days are pretty much over now. You know, like there's no beef between Max and Hamilton whatsoever anymore. So, that's why I don't understand why his fans are still toxic. You know, like you're an English fan, an English Lewis Hamilton fan. You go all the way to Hungary and then you let yourself get annoyed by people dressed in orange 5 seats away from you, and then you make pictures of them and you laugh at them. And he got a lot of comments about it that, you know, he shouldn't be making pictures of people and then posting it on socials without their permission. So he removed that. But he was still wishing that Max would go out in Q2 and that he would have a great view on it. And then it happened to his driver. So yeah, it's just pretty stupid to do that. Christina says Lewis was a top driver, but situation unfortunately changed with cost cap. Also, he got Charles as his teammate, who is so used to shitty Ferraris that he wouldn't know what to do with a good Ferrari. Right. Okay, let's go to Q1. The top 10 is as follows. 10. Isaac Hadjar, getting beaten by his teammate Liam Lawson. I think that's been going on for a couple of races as well now. You know how Hadjar was up really high loads of times? Well, Liam Lawson is finding his feet and he's getting his own back a little bit. Let's see if we see that in the points as well tomorrow. Because I like both drivers. I like Liam Lawson as well, and it was rough that he was kicked out after 2 races. Because in the end, you know, Yuki isn't doing any better. And then in P8, the best Red Bull driver, Max Verstappen. And he was 3.5 tenths off pole position. That's not even that bad. Then in P7, a big surprise, one of the rookies, Gabriel Bortoleto. That's amazing. And those guys know each other really, really well because they drive for the same sim team. And yeah, all the rookies love Max, but especially Gabi. He's very close with Gabi. So let's see if he can bring home some points. I'd like that. And then the Aston Martin boys. Lavier said that Adrian Newey breathed on the Aston Martin cars, and now they're way faster because P6 and P5 for Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso is amazing. Now, I've seen that before though with Aston Martin cars, and then they went through the tires really quickly and they still ended up P17. So let's see how that goes tomorrow. And then in P4 we have George Russell, who kind of recovered a bit from a bad weekend last week. Then in P3, Lando Norris, who's going to have, a hard fight to keep, to get past Oscar Piastri. And then Oscar Piastri will be fighting Charles Leclerc, who put it on pole as a surprise. The only thing I really, really wish for, like I'm praying, is a Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc title fight. And you know what? I could live with a Charles Leclerc title. You know? Even if it's against Max. So, maybe next season. But those guys, they can fight so well, Max and Charles. I think they're the two best drivers on the grid. With George Russell. Oh, see you later, Outlaw. Thank you for joining. Even if it's for a short while. No problem. Christina says this year we got some incredibly talented rookies. Well, that's true. Also because the year before that we got no rookies at all. But we got 4 this year. And Oliver Behrman, Hajar, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Kimi Antonelli. They're amazing. And then I kind of see Liam Lawson as a rookie as well. And he's finding his feet, so that's good. So, let's do some predictions. Let me make a poll. Yeah, so who's going to win the Hungarian Grand Prix? Leclerc? Piastri? Norris? Or a surprise? Oh, Christina, you don't have to. You don't have to vote. Don't jinx it. It's fine. And Inge says Stroll. That would be a surprise. And Hank says surprise Russell. Well, if Norris and Piastri get into trouble and Norris DNFs, then Russell's gonna win because it happened in Austria. That's where Russell won after Max and Lando crashed into each other, and Russell won. And it happened in Canada, where Norris crashed into the back of Piastri and Russell won. So Samantha says, surprise, Alonso manifesting. Nice. Hey, who says Spain? Did I make a mistake, Tanvir? So yeah, Tanvir, look me up on Twitter so I can follow you back. Hank says Russell is always there to pick up the scraps. That's right. That's what he does. So let me see if enough people voted already. Oh no, I have to end it. Oh yeah. 71%. Oh, 62. Oh, it's very level. But it's only 8 votes, so. Christina says, we tifosi don't have high expectations. It's going to rain tomorrow and Charles is on low downforce. Oh, shit. That's another thing we haven't talked about. The weather tomorrow. So, guys, how do you think it's going to play out tomorrow? Let me see. I think Leclerc's going to get a good start. He's going to stay ahead. But then the McLaren pace starts coming in. And then Oscar, he's going to be very divisive. And he's going to overtake Leclerc quite handily on fresh tires. Then Lando Norris, he will catch up with Leclerc as well. And he's going to struggle for 6-7 laps. And then he overtakes Leclerc. And then the races are, it's probably already done because Oscar Piastri will have a too big of a lead. He'll get the first pit stop and he'll win the race. So I think it's going to be Piastri, Norris, Leclerc. That's my prediction. What do you guys think? Christina says Alonso and Stroll on the podium would be amazing, honestly. Yeah, that would be an ideal podium. Leclerc, Alonso and Stroll. That would mean a lot for Aston Martin on the standings as well. Scoring 30 points. Because at the minute they're struggling to stay in P5, I think. Team standings. F1 after Belgium. Why I only get this? It's ridiculous. I've been clicking on 4 links to find the team standings after the Belgian Grand Prix. And they all say team standings and they give me the driver standings. So, yeah. I gave up. Christina says Team 16 will fumble strategy. Yep. The strategy team for Belgium was excellent. I agree. That was pretty good. Ooh, Vegas thinks Norris is going to win. Oh, that would be that would be amazing for the standings because um, Piastri is 16 points ahead now, and you know that would put them really close to each other again. The ideal situation would be if um, Norris and Piastri get into a bit of a scrap, and then both of them ruin their front wings or something, and they both need to come in for a new wing, and then yeah, other drivers can win. Um, Guys, do you remember what happened that year when Ocon won? Oh yeah, yeah, that was of course. Bottas went bowling, and he took away half the grid, right? And then there was a restart, and everybody went in to change their tires, except for Lewis Hamilton, and he was on the start on his own. That was quite funny. I'm just reading what you're writing there, Christina. Yeah, Team 55 or now 44 was always better at this than Team 16. They always forget how to operate when it's wet and leave Charles with no info. Well, last week, Charles got too much info. Like, uh, Charles, max at 1.2 seconds. Okay, shut up now. Let me drive. What? Oh, you know what I liked about Charles Leclerc as well today? He said, okay, I want you to send me out as soon as possible. I want to be one of the first ones out there, but I want to wait as long as possible. Like he was setting out exactly what he wanted. And then he scored pole position. So that was good. Yes. Guys, it's almost 9 o'clock. I think I've discussed everything pretty much now. I haven't got any scripts ready for any videos. I'm just going to let it all come to me this weekend. And then I'll pop out 2 videos this week. And I'll do a live stream again next week on Saturday. Like always. Yeah. If you have any questions, do it now because I'll be out in 2 minutes. Charles was genuinely surprised with Paul. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely was. It was surprising for everybody. Hey, Vegas. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you. Yeah, I thought Vegas, I thought you might enjoy that basketball series. You know, you've been from the States and maybe even remembering what the LA Lakers were like, but yeah, for the other people watching, um I'm watching a great TV series about the LA Lakers called Winning Times. It's on HBO Max. Um, and as with all sports shows, it's all about the highs and lows of the LA Lakers, who were taken over by a very flamboyant business guy, and yeah, he brought Magic Johnson in there, and yeah, all kinds of team dynamics started changing, and I'm halfway through season 2 now, and it's amazing. I really, really love that show. So, guys, if you're into TV shows about sports, then I can highly recommend Winning Times. Right, everybody. I'll see you underneath my videos hopefully next week. Take care now. Doei doei.